What an honor to be here for this incredible ceremony. Mr. Prime Minister, Secretary Rubio, all of the wonderful people who made this possible by their generosity, contributing to something that is historic and something that is a living memorial of what God has done. It was 4,000 years ago here in this city on Mount Moriah where God chose his people. He not only chose a people, but he chose a place. And then he chose for the people in this place a purpose. The people were the Jewish people. The place was Israel. And the purpose was to be a light to the world and to show that we don't have to look for God because he is looking for us. And that is what so separates the long history of why this city is so important. It's also a reminder to us that this little bitty sliver of real estate on the vast planet Earth is the most contested piece of land in all of human history. Not because of just those who want it, but because of those who don't want the Jewish people to have it. But tonight, something is extraordinary that we celebrate. For 3,000 years ago, David established his kingdom here. And 2,000 years ago, the world, through the Romans, decided we'll get rid of the Jews. And they destroyed this place. And they scattered the Jewish people across the planet. But that wasn't the end of the story. Tonight, we're sitting here because the story is not just alive. It's more alive than perhaps it has been in the 4,000 years that God chose his people, his place, his purpose. And it is an extraordinary thing to behold. Tonight, I'm reminded of the day that the embassy was dedicated in 2018. I was so grateful to President Trump for making the bold and courageous decision that despite all of the opposition across the planet, he was going to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, as he should. Other presidents promised it, but they always found a reason to back away. President Trump made a promise, and he kept the promise. And on the day that we were here, and I was overwhelmed with emotion as I sat at the dedication of the embassy having moved to Jerusalem, there was a young man in the crowd, and he was exuberant. He was an American, and he was looking around, and he said, "Wow, I've been waiting 20 years for this to happen." Sheldon Adelson, who along with his wife Miriam, who is here tonight, major contributors to this incredible excavation. Sheldon, who I absolutely adored because he was one of the funniest men I've ever known. When the young man said, "Wow, I've waited 20 years for this," Sheldon, in his very dry way, just looked and said, "Son, we've been waiting 2,000 years for this." What a great reminder that the Jewish people are a patient people. And tonight there's something extraordinary, truly extraordinary, to celebrate. It was David, the king and the psalmist, who said in Psalm 137 and verse 5, "If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill." The Jewish people never forgot that this was their land, their home, their undivided, indisputable, indigenous capital from eternity. And tonight, something truly extraordinary happens. It is often said that history is to a civilization what memory is to the individual. If any of us were to wake up tomorrow and not remember where we lived or who we were or who that woman is that is living in our house because we didn't know her to be our wife, Amnesia is a horrible thing to have because one is disoriented, lost, completely unable to make a connection just to the simplest things of life. But history is to a civilization what memory is to the individual. And tonight, this is a celebration of the history of Jerusalem. There is a verse in the New Testament, in Luke, verse 40 of chapter 19, and it says this: if the crowds keep quiet, the stones will cry out. If the crowds don't acknowledge it, the stones will cry out. Tonight, the stones are crying out. The crowds may say it, but the stones absolutely and 100% validate that the Jewish people not only belong here now, but they have belonged here for 4,000 years, since the time God said to Abraham, "This is yours. Take good care of it. And you'll be a blessing to the people around the earth." And even to those of us who aren't even Jewish. He says, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And I come here tonight because I'd rather have a blessing than a curse. I recognize that this extraordinary excavation is not just dust and stone. It is a living speech in which God is crying out through the very stones to say to the world, this magnificent excavation, this extraordinary piece of archaeological mastery is a validation and a truth, and it is shouting from the top of the mountain that this is indeed the eternal home of the Jewish people, the Jewish state, and the people who rightly belong here. And tonight the rest of the world comes to say, welcome home, and may no one ever, ever attempt to take your home from you. It is yours. And those of us who are not Jewish, we thank you for giving all of us a foundation of morality and decency and civilization upon which our own faith is built, for without yours, we don't have one. As I often tell my Jewish friends, you can be Jewish, you don't need me. But I cannot be who I am in my faith without the debt of obligation that I owe to you for having listened to God and been willing to be obedient to Him when He called you to this place as His people for His eternal, everlasting purpose. And I salute you and join you tonight in the celebration of this wonderful, magnificent, incredible reminder that God never has been finished with Israel, and He never will be. This is the eternal home that He has chosen. God bless you all.